you ever reached out to someone to offer a hand only to hear, "I don't need your help"? I don't know about you, but it always comes as a surprise to me. Just when you're trying to be a good person, a good neighbor, your offer is rebuffed, sometimes with a distinct tone of annoyance. Or have you ever been on the other side? I know I have. I like to think I'm a fairly vital 72-year-old, so it's hard for me to gracefully receive an arm or a hand when I think I can take care of myself, thank you very much. Sadly, sometimes I refuse a gesture which is really meant only as an expression of friendship and caring. Why is it so difficult to accept help? I suppose it's hard to acknowledge that we need it, to admit that we're vulnerable, which in this country is the ultimate secular sin. We're supposed to be strong and independent. We're supposed not to need anything from anybody. That's the American way of life, isn't it? Tell that to the millions living under the poverty line. The millions who can't afford to take jobs that can't possibly sustain them. Tell that to seniors who have to decide between food and medication. The reality is that our go-it-alone ethos cannot sustain us, at least not all of us. And by extension, all of us have everything to lose. It was the same in Jesus' day. He cried out, "Oh, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, how often have I desired to gather your children together as a hen gathers her brood under her wings, and you were not willing." You would not. This is such a poignant moment, not just because it's such a clear reference to the feminine nature of God. Here we need to remember that Jesus is not lamenting over his followers. He had already touched those most receptive to his message, and they were responding to him. Here Jesus is lamenting over his enemies, the religious elite that wanted to unravel his mission and put him to death. Even so, Jesus will not be deterred. He will continue to teach hope and heal people sick in body, mind, or spirit. Listen, I am casting out demons and performing cures today and tomorrow, and on the third day, I finish my work. Why is it Jesus was so opposed? Well, it's the same old story. Jesus is opposed by people so in love with their own power and privilege that they are deaf to the cries of the desperate, the poor, the disenfranchised. They despise, or even worse, dismiss people who desperately need their help. The elites clinging to the way things are, clinging to the way they are, rather than being able to imagine who they might become. Ironically, it turns out that the religious elites were the most vulnerable of all. They set their future on a narrow, constricted way of being. They hadn't realized that their time is running out. Their prized power and privilege would be extinguished when Rome destroyed the city of Jerusalem, only 4 decades later. Luke, the author, knows this. The Pharisees in his narrative do not. Meanwhile, choosing to be hostile, the elites squandered a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to listen to Jesus and to find new life. They could not ask for or receive help because they refused to acknowledge how much they needed it. Some people recognize when they are in desperate need of help, and they are willing to ask for it. I think of President Zelensky and the people of Ukraine. This is a nightmare unfolding before our eyes. We couldn't watch people scrambling to exit the countries Nazi Germany invaded in real time. But now we watch the same thing every day. It's 1939 all over again. Women carrying babies over a precarious footbridge. Frightened pets being led in the same direction. Old people determined to continue their journey across shaky, splintered boards. All of these people are more than willing to receive help from the United States and from the EU. But right now, besides offering humanitarian support, we don't even know what is the right kind of help to offer them. And we certainly can't predict how far Putin will take this tragic war. Meanwhile, in Poland and Romania and all the other border countries, people from around the world are setting up food and warming stations. They've bought strollers and baby clothes. They've offered rooms in their own homes. They're working to fill needed prescriptions and help the refugees get in touch with any relatives that they can contact for them. Thank God for these expressions of humanity in the midst of unrelenting, abject evil. Here, we are spared that kind of overwhelming horror. And so many of us have the luxury of minimizing any pain we may feel. We're in. Aaron Henry writes about being somewhere in between asking for and refusing help, which may reflect where most of us are most of the time. This is how she tells her story. Hi, my name is Erin, and I'm a recovering, I don't need any help person. I've been uncomfortable receiving and asking for help as long as I can remember. My whole life I've been a person who thought I was being strong by doing everything on my own, even if it meant doing it with struggle. My recovery from this affliction began last year when I found myself on the floor of my new apartment in a pile of self-pity and tears after a move, in which I declined the help of anyone besides the movers I had paid. I finally reached for my phone and dialed a lifeline. Within hours, my friend was there with his drill and furniture assembly skills, whistling away and piecing my bed and other furniture together in minutes, when I had struggled with them for hours. The next night, I called a girlfriend back who had offered to help me arrange my new closet, and to my surprise, it actually made things easier. And she was happy to do it. Who knew? Instantly, my stress level went down, and I felt good knowing I had people in my life who would give to me so generously. Being able to receive directions when you're lost, or a gift, or a glass of water, or a warm embrace from another person is just as much a joy for them as it is for you, and an experience of true intimacy. What became true for Aaron in receiving help from other people is even more true in our relationship with God. We put up many of the same excuses in refusing to ask God for help. I can manage on my own. I am not worthy of God's attention. I'm afraid being judged. I'm afraid of being rejected. If ever any one of us hears these misguided and misleading inner voices, we need to remember Jesus' lament. How often have I desired to gather your children together as a hen gathers her brood under her wings, and you were not willing. The season of Lent reminds us that we all need help, sometimes from other people, and always from God. We have no reason to hold back from God. We have every reason to approach God, who longs for us and is willing to wait for us as long as it takes.